We will now hear from the candidates running for the 22nd Legislative District for State Senator. The candidates are Michael Noland and Steve Rauschenberger. The candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they will give their opening statements. They will then rotate the order of speaking. They will each be allowed 2 minutes to give an opening statement. They will then be asked questions formulated by the lead. They will each be given 60 seconds to answer and 45 seconds each to follow up. Our lead member, again, will act as timer using the countdown cards, yellow for midpoint and red to stop, which are visible to all the candidates. The audience is again requested to turn off all cell phones and pagers. Candidates have agreed that no voice, image, or other duplication of the form may be used by a candidate, representative, or campaign, or in any campaign advertising. Again, please hold applause. So let's begin this portion. We will start with a 2-minute opening statement from Mr. Michael Noland. Michael Noland is a 30-year resident of Elgin, where he resides with his wife Veronica and their 2 children. He served in the Illinois Senate since 2006, where he serves as Vice Chair of the Revenue Committee, is on the Appropriations, Housing, and Community Affairs Committees. Mr. Noland.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming out here this evening. You're taking time out of your busy days and schedules to be here. I'd particularly like to thank the League of Women Voters for the great job that they do in making democracy work for all of our communities, and of course throughout the state of Illinois. As mentioned, I am I'm a 33-year resident of this district. I live in Elgin on the near east side with my wife, Veronica, and our 2 children, Claire, who's 8 years old, and Lucian, who turned 6 today. I really do want to express from the bottom of my heart the deep honor that I have felt over the last 4 years serving as your senator. In my first term, and what a wild, crazy ride this first term really has been, as your state senator, I've concentrated on bringing recovery, relief, and reform to the state of Illinois and, of course, to the 22nd District. I was proud to support a $31 billion capital bill that is spurring job growth across this state, and to serve as the primary and the chief sponsor of the small business tax credit that is going to put over 20,000 people to work this fiscal year. I voted to double the property tax credit against your income tax, and I voted to triple the earned income tax credit for low-income families and to double the education tax credit for middle-income families as well. And for those who live in Cook County, I co-sponsored the legislation that helped roll back the Stroger sales tax. I chair the Criminal Law Committee. I voted to impeach our former Governor Rod Blagojevich, and every stitch of ethics reform has my name on it. And the recall measure that you're going to have an opportunity to vote on this fall was my resolution that put that on the ballot. I'm asking for a second term to make sure that Illinois continues its path of recovery, relief, and reform, and to finally, at long last, truly balance our budget, and to once again open up the door of opportunity for our children and all the people of Illinois. Thank you very much.
We will now hear from Mr. Rauschenberg. Steve Rauschenberg and his wife Betty and their 2 children are lifetime residents of Elgin. He served in the Illinois Senate from 1992, where he served as chairman of the Appropriations Committee until his retirement in 2006. Mr. Rauschenberg.
A couple quick corrections. I was Appropriations Chairman from 1995 through 2002. The 4 years that I served in the minority when the Democrats had control, I was not the Appropriations Chairman, although things might be different if I was. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. Relax, it's just politicians up here. I'm a former retailer. I've helped people in this room buy recliners and sofas. I know what it's like to live in this community. My wife of 30 years on October 18th, I think I got the date right for the first time in about 29 years, is sitting up here, so be nice to her. Well, I want to take you on a quick trip down memory lane. The focus isn't the past, but the past is kind of prologue. I remember, and I hope you do too, when legislators took their constitutional oaths seriously. When they swore to uphold the Constitution and its balanced budget plank, they knew they were swearing something that mattered. I remember balanced budgets down in Springfield. I remember budget hearings where people actually had input. I remember bipartisan compromises between Republicans and Democrats and a governor who was from downstate and made sure things were square. I remember governors that didn't go to jail. I remember a state that paid its bills and was a partner with local human service agencies in trying to help people in need, and working on innovation and programs and taking input instead of putting those organizations in a position where they have to beg to get paid. But this campaign is not about the past, it's really about the future. But you need to remember, as you think about the future, we can have that kind of past again. We can have a state we can be proud of. We can have a state where we pay our bills. We can have a state where you can be proud to be a resident of, where we're not embarrassed every day. Thank you.
The following are questions presented by the league. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond, and then 45 seconds for follow-up. The first question is for Mr. Rauschenberger. This is regarding fiscal policy and structure. Despite significant and in some cases devastating cuts to state services such as education, mental health, social services, public safety, and others, the state of Illinois deficit is $13 billion and growing. Given this, do you believe our tax system is working well, and if not, how would you change it?
Well, a couple quick corrections again, not to offend the league, but the budget deficit is actually about $6.5 billion. $13 billion refers to the unpaid bills that are on hand. So it's only a $6 billion deficit. I think the tax system in Illinois is due for a tune-up and an improvement over time. But our problem in our state budget is not a revenue problem. It's a problem of leadership in the state. When you have an administration and a legislature that has regulation and litigation as its primary function, when you punish job producers, when you raise fees and taxes consistently on employers, when you have one of the worst workmen's compensation systems in the nation, when your unemployment insurance rates are higher than everyone else's, you lose jobs. And those jobs are where we need to earn our revenue. We need a state government that knows how to live within its means. We've had one in the past. We can have one again. Along the way, we need to improve our sales tax. I think it can be better. I think we can make some improvements in the income tax. But we are taxed enough in the state of Illinois.
Mr. Noland?
Thank you. Let us be clear. My opponent advocates an increase. When he says improvement on the sales tax, he's talking about an increase in the sales tax. I'm glad that he's stating that. So when he criticizes the fact that I am advocating for structural tax reform here in the state of Illinois and have fought for property tax relief, it becomes part of the discussion. Does our tax system work? No. I'm not sure that there is anybody here that works either in our school districts or for our social service agencies or for any level of government and is an observer on the sidelines would think that this system works. We rely far too heavily on our property tax, and the state is a deadbeat state. It's not stepping up to the plate and funding these services as they need to. It is saying that we're going to be able to get by on just simply what we have is tantamount to reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. We are sinking, folks. It's a gaping wound and a hole in the side of the hull of the ship, and we need to pull over for repairs, and that's what I'm advocating.
A 45-second follow-up to Mr. Rush.
A quick response. I'll thank the good senator not to answer my questions for me. I don't advocate an increase in the sales tax, and I'd rather he not characterize my work. And when we get to the Titanic, keep in mind that it was piloting the Titanic at full speed in the middle of the night, in the middle of icebergs, that caused the wreck of the Titanic. The Titanic might have cruised back and forth across the Atlantic with better leadership. And I would say that the budget today and the revenue system apparently works for ASME, which the state employees got a 7% raise just weeks ago with the blessing of the Democratic leadership in the House and Senate. So while our local service agencies are laying people off, human service workers for the state of Illinois are getting a 7% average raise this year and 7% more next year. This is about prioritization and leadership, not about taking more resources from your families.